I want to share with you today some yoga poses that have really helped me with my back. And they can help you even if you don't have back problems, just to prevent back problems and also to get a lot of energy and fluidity moving through your spine. I've been practicing yoga now for 50 years. Just last year it dawned on me, wow, since 1970. And really for about the last 30 years, I've had some pretty chronic back issues with vertebrae that are degenerating and discs. And this has really helped me, and it's kept me out of pain most of the time and definitely out of surgery. So that's my story about it. Many of us are sitting too much in our daily lives, especially being on computers so much these days, and too much sitting can really be not so good for the back. But these poses that I'm going to show you today, and there are 9 to 10 of them depending on you, these poses can strengthen and stretch your back, stretch your spine, reducing any pain or stiffness that you might be having, and create stronger muscles around your discs and your vertebrae. Also can help you prevent osteoporosis, because many of the yoga poses such as downward facing dog and cobra and plank, these are all bearing your own weight. We talk about doing weight bearing exercises when we're trying to prevent osteoporosis as we are aging. So without further ado, I'll get on to the poses. And these, you can do these every day, and you can, even if you only have a few minutes, they shouldn't take more than about 5 to 10 minutes a day, and it's really worth it. You'll see the benefits right away. So this first pose, it's actually 2 poses, cat and cow pose. You've probably done it before. You're just moving the spine and your head up and down, and you're keeping your arms straight. So it looks like this. You inhale as you come up, and then as you exhale, you're rounding the middle of the back. And really try to do this with breath, and also get your eyes involved a little bit. If you have wrist issues, you can come onto your fists, or you can take blocks and set your hands on blocks. You can do this 5 to 10 times, making sure all the air comes out on the exhale. So that's cat and cow. And then separate your knees a little more and come back, put your toes together and come back in child's pose or balasana. This is a very grounding pose. You stretch your arms out forward, put your elbows on the floor, and everywhere where your body touches the floor, you're thinking about connecting with this beautiful earth below you. Even if you're in a high-rise apartment, you can send roots all the way down. So you drop your forehead down and just breathe here. Breathe your best, biggest breaths, slowest breaths out to the rib cage, stretching the back. The third pose is Sphinx Pose. So what you want to do is have your elbows right under the shoulders here, not forward and not back here. And you're just propping yourself up. It's a very subtle pose, but you want to, just to really support your spine, you want to squeeze the buttocks back here and use your back muscles, even pulling back on the muscles from your belly to your spine. And then just drop the shoulders backward like you want to bring them together, and drop your chin forward. Sphinx Pose. Now from here, if you don't have really problematic discs, and check with your orthopedic guy or your chiropractor or your physical therapist if you're really having trouble with discs, you want to be careful if you're going to do cobra. So really use your intuition here as well, see what works for you. You're going to be taking your hands back next to the chest and lifting. Now maybe you only come to here, that's fine. If you come all the way up, it's important that you don't sag down your belly, that you really lift and use those abdominal muscles. One of the things about having a stable and strong back is to strengthen these muscles in the abdomen and in the spine. So Cobra will do that. Cobra usually looks up. And then from here, you would come onto the balls of the feet, take your hands forward a little bit, but again, your hands are right under the shoulders. Push your feet back. This is plank pose, but we don't stay in here too long, especially if you have back issues. It does strengthen, But what you want to do is come up into downward facing dog. So this would be pose number 5, downward facing dog. Bending your knees until you get your hips all the way up and then straightening the legs. And for sure, you can play a little bit in this pose. You can bend one knee, straighten the other. You can look under one arm, lifting a hip, and then the other. Really pushing back. Maybe you take about 5 breaths in downward facing dog. So this next pose is Uttanasana. You notice asana, the word asana is on the end of a lot of these poses, Balasana, Uttanasana. And that just means pose or position. Traditionally, this translation is seat on the earth, so how we're seated on the earth. I really love that. So Uttanasana is a forward fold. You usually want to start with a big inhale, lifting the arms up. Do a little bit of a back bend, again, supporting your back by squeezing the buttocks. And then you're going to come down, bending the knees a little bit, and that's important. You don't want to stress out your hamstrings, and your feet do not need to be together. They can be 3 or 4 inches apart. That's usually better for your balance. And in this pose, you have a choice. You can hold on to your feet, or if your fingers touch the floor, you can touch the floor. You can also take your elbows into your hands and just drop your head. Breathing into the rib cage. This is also a very relaxing pose, so I recommend people do this a couple times a day. Just fall into this Uttanasana. At the same time, we want to have the belly muscles active, pulling them up toward the spine, imagining someone has a rope around your waist, lifting you up. And pay attention to your balance between the balls of the feet and the heels. You want to be nice and even there. But again, bending the knees a little bit. Nice big breaths to the belly here. And then, if you like, you can take your hands here. We'll do a little half lift, scooping up the spine. Really press into your shins here and come up, pulling the shoulders back. And then dropping. You could do that a few times as well. Uttanasana, forward fold. When you come up, make sure that you come up nice and slow, like a rag doll, with your head coming up last. Maybe you do a little bit of an arch here. Okay. So another important thing for the back is to, when you're laying on your back, to take your knees in and circle around. You can even do this in bed in the morning before you even get out of bed. And I would do this, if you do have back problems, I would do this at least twice a day, morning and night. Just circling the knees, each direction. Knees bent toward the chest. And then I'm going to take your feet flat and we'll come into a half bridge pose. So for half bridge, you want to walk your feet back about even with the hips. So your knees are apart here. And just feel for your middle fingers. Feel your middle fingers touching your heels. You can lift up the upper back and then press down just the tops of the shoulders. Then we're going to squeeze the buttocks and lift up. This is half bridge pose. And in this pose, you want to breathe down into your belly, squeezing the buttocks, and you'll feel the tops of your thighs working. You can also press down with the heels. Now, if you want a little more from this pose, you can clasp your hands underneath you. Be sure and be up on the tops of your shoulders. Good. And then what I like to do, if you have a block, I like to take the block and just slide it underneath when I've had enough of this pose. If you don't have a block, you could use a firm pillow underneath there. And just rest on the block, resting your spine. This is a very good position for the spine. And if you like, you can even bring your knees in or your legs up and play a little. I like to kind of move around because where my problems are down here at the sacrum. So that's also nice to do. And just spend a little time here. And then eventually you'll take away the block and come back down. It's also good when you're laying flat on your back to push into the elbows, lift up your back, and then place it down again. So we know that your back is nice and flat. You feel the whole length of your back on the floor instead of having like a lift up here, okay? Again, doing so much sitting, we want to stretch the back as best we can, even when you're just laying flat. Another thing that's important for the health of your spine is twisting carefully and slowly. So I like to do this laying down twist where you take one leg and cross it over the other one, just like you're crossing your legs in a chair. The other opposite arm will go out to the side, and then you just drop your knees and drop them as far as they want to go. You can anchor with your foot down on the floor. Maybe you want to even give it a little bit more if your spine is okay with that. You can put your hand on the leg and twist a little bit further. If you have trouble with this outer shoulder, it's a very unstable position for the shoulder when we do this. You can put a block or a pillow underneath the shoulder. And of course, you would do both sides. This final pose is a very restorative one. We call this legs up the wall pose. So what you want to do is you want to shimmy up to something, some surface. I have my wood post here. Most people will have a wall in your house. Sometimes I've even used the back of the couch, but it's better to have a flat surface under you and then elevate your tailbone with a pillow or even a block. And this pose, while it's very restful and restorative, it also is doing a lot for you. It's helping the lymphatic system drain dampness from the body and carry out toxins. It's also reversing the blood flow. Normally we're standing or sitting and the legs are going the other way. And it's helping the heart, and it's bringing a lot of oxygen and blood and energy to the lower spine. This I recommend every single day, especially at the end of the day. So find a time, a place, you can even read a book, and I would stay in this pose at least 5 minutes, longer if you can. Legs up the wall. And if it's easier and you don't have a wall handy, you can just be laying on your mat, take a strap. Even if you don't have a yoga strap, you can use like the strap from your bathrobe or something, lifting the legs up, and have a little nice generous bend in the knees. Make sure your elbows are on the floor so that you're really relaxed, and just hang out like this. It'll give you basically the same effect as legs up the wall. It's a little more relaxing to not have to use your arms though. If you only have time for just a couple of poses in the beginning of the day, I strongly recommend that you at least do these 3. Knees to chest, cat and cow, and the standing forward bend. Those are going to greatly help your spine get ready for the day. And try to, during the day, if you have a sedentary job, try to get up and just do any one of those things, even just a forward bend. It'll help you a lot. All right, take good care of your back and care of your whole self. Namaste.